And welcome to Smokey Uncuffed. I'm Brian, and on this channel we will cover law enforcement, social media and platforms, the ones that I currently use, and just life. Basically, that's where I can talk about whatever I want. So as you can see, if you're watching me here on YouTube, I've got a heady coat, sweatshirt. It's in the mid-30s here, and we're fixing to have one of our first big winter storms of the year. And which is kind of odd for us. We usually have them earlier than now. What I want to talk about today is basically law enforcement, and is it for you? I mean, is it a field that you really need to go into, or you really want to go into, but should you? So we're going to cover that and just kind of see the possibilities of it and where it could take you. So although I haven't covered my life story on here and totally explained completely who I am, where I come from. I'm a retired Oklahoma State trooper of 20 years. I just retired last year. And I came here I got to that point from a different path. I worked EMS prior to this. And kind of what pointed me to this was I got in a fight with my last meth head and decided I needed a way that I could take care of this. And so I joined the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. So what I mean by, is this a job for you, or should you take it given the opportunity? Well, I'm going to start out by saying it this way. Should my son or daughter decide they want to be in law enforcement at this day and age, at this point in time, I would do what I could to talk them out of it. Not that serving your community, serving your state is a bad thing. My son was in the military for 6 years. Really proud of him. I mean, great. Went to Afghanistan. We were scared to death, but I mean, that's just part of that whole ride. But, you know, the law enforcement thing, there's just so many different aspects of it now that could get to you. From lawsuits, which on average you're going to be sued at least once in your career. I mean, that's just a given. You're going to be involved in some lawsuit somewhere because somebody thought you did them wrong. Shootings. So although I made it through my entire career without getting sued, which is an anomaly, another anomaly is I made it through 20 years without actually having to shoot somebody or being shot. And to be honest, I don't know that I've actually been shot at. I've been around shootings. I hadn't necessarily been shot at. And I've been in situations where I could have shot somebody. I've been in one situation for sure, probably two, that I would have been justified in shooting somebody. You know, I took all the circumstances into account in the couple of situations I was in where I really could have shot somebody justified and just felt I didn't need to. And as it turned out, well, all those turned out good. Both of those turned out good. So, well, good for me. But my point being is the odds of you making it through a 20-year career anymore without being shot at, or shooting somebody, very slim. I mean, just the way this world has turned, it's just a more violent place. And I'm not going to say all countries are that way. I'm just speaking of the United States. I mean, that's why gun control is such a huge issue in the United States. You know, there's that whole side that thinks if we control the gun owners, we'll control the situation. Well, that's completely, I mean, that's just crazy. Just be honest, it's crazy. If that worked, just by them saying, hey, illicit drugs are illegal, well, then we wouldn't have any druggies, right? Clearly, controlling the guns is going to be the same thing. If you control the guns and good, honest, law-abiding citizens follow those laws, well, guess who's going to have the guns? The bad guys. And then the good guys aren't going to have the guns to fight the bad guys. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I guess it does to some people at some level, and I mean, this may irritate some people that I am pro-gun and pro-gun ownership, but I just am. Now, in fairness, I spent 20 years carrying one for a job, I mean, on the job, and so I'm very comfortable with them, and I'm very trained in how to use it, so that's a different aspect, I assume, but I'm not against you owning a gun. I mean, you need to be able to protect your family if that need should arise. Somebody comes in your house and want to do harm to you or your family. I feel like you have the right and should have a gun to protect yourself. So I didn't mean to go off on a tangent there with gun control. It's just kind of a sore subject. I don't completely agree with the way things are going, the way politicians are looking at guns and how they're wanting to control them. I mean, I just don't believe it'll work. Like I said a while ago, I think if that kind of control worked, we wouldn't have any drug problems. So I'll get back on point here. So, I mean, I'm just looking at the facts of people coming into law enforcement. I mean, young people at this day and age. I have zero issues with them wanting to serve the public. I am completely for it, and it is a necessary evil that we've got to have out here. We've got to have law enforcement. I'm not saying law enforcement's evil. I'm saying that we have to have them to fight the evil. And we need them, and we're going to have some. I'm just saying if it were mine, I would not be pointing mine in that direction. It had changed so much in 20 years. I'm going to be honest, it changed so much in the first 6 years that I was on the patrol. It was crazy. I mean, when I first started in 1999, it was more of an eye for an eye thing. You know, you get out there and a bad guy acts up with you and swings at you or takes a slug, it's on. We're taking you to the ground, we're going to fight, and you're going to get cuffed and go to jail for it. Now, it's a kinder, gentler world. I mean, and what I mean by that is on that subject of if things get aggressive or violent, it's on and we're going to go at it. Well, when I first came on, I always used a general rule of I didn't cuss them. I mean, I was professional. I used straight language with them until they cussed me. You open that door, I'm walking through, and then I'm going to tell you exactly what I think of you. And I would do that. Now, no, you just got to take it. I mean, they can call you every name in the book, and if you retaliate, you're going to be in trouble because everybody's got body mics. Everybody's got cameras on them anymore. And so your higher-ups are going to go, oh, no, that's just wrong. Even though back whenever they were working the road, before they ever got promoted, that's exactly how they worked. So, you know, it's just one of those things. It's just changed to a kinder, gentler society in that aspect. And every time something like that happens, you get in a fight, things get out of hand and tempers raise, the police is always going to be the first one that's considered wrong in the media's eyes. And it's unfortunate. It shouldn't be that way. Now, I'm not going to say every situation is the same and the law enforcement is always right, because you clearly see ones that are just completely off the reservation and they're wrong. But for the most part, they're there just doing a job, not looking to get in a fight and not looking to cause harm to people. They're just looking to take care of the situation. Now, with that said, I'm saying this just from the view of a state trooper. And as an Oklahoma state trooper, you're there to enforce traffic laws. You're in there to work accidents. You're there to help the motoring public when they break down or any kind of situation on the highway. And another big one that most people don't realize, we're actually a supporting agency. We're there to help your agency. So if you're a small police department, sheriff's department, and you need the help, you yell, we show up. I mean, we'll come help you do whatever it is you got to do. You're in the lead of that because it's your call, but we're there just for manpower, pretty much. So with that said, whenever you're in as a trooper, you know, I see all these things on the interstate. We dealt with people coming from other states more. Now with the local police department, they're going to be dealing with local stuff more than likely. Most of the time it's local stuff. And the sheriff's office is going to be the same way. But where I wouldn't want their job is domestics. I mean, good gosh, you have not seen a headache until some of these domestics you go on. And I've been on several, and I don't know how they handle it. It's just the stupidity that's involved in what's happening, the stuff they're fighting over, and what they're wanting to take place out of the fight. It's crazy. I mean, I've willfully gone to a couple of domestics. We had one of our local police departments here was covered up one night. I mean, it was crazy how many calls they were getting. And so they got 2 more domestics at once, and they already had 2 working, and they only had 3 officers out. So the math didn't add up. So they were sending 1 officer to each of the 2 domestics that just came out, which is kind of a no-no. They usually send 2. So we were trying to decide we're going to go help one of them, and I took off towards one, and they advised the second one that it was 2 guys fighting with chainsaws. And the other one was a verbal domestic. Guess which one I went to? Well, I mean, who doesn't want to see somebody fighting with chainsaws? I mean, that's nuts. So I get there, and the chainsaws are on the ground. They're not fighting. But it was just the stupidity. It was next door neighbors. I don't even remember exactly what they were fighting over, but it was something over, oh, you were doing this in my yard, and no, I wasn't. It was in my yard, and they both had chainsaws, and so they decided they would get in the yard and fight. So in the end, they both went to jail, but it's just that kind of crazy nonsense that you have to navigate through as a police officer or as a deputy. You've got to navigate through this through 2 people that are usually irrational, and you're trying to figure out what the right course to take is. And again, the way I view that, you take the wrong action, you're opening yourself up for another lawsuit. And so now what you run into out there is you have these people called sovereign citizens. And their whole goal is to get out there and interact with law enforcement in a negative way, yet make it appear that the law enforcement is wrong. They will try to incite the officer. They will try to get the officer to hit them. They will try to drag them into these situations to where it's all going to be on video. And they'll be videoing this along with your video. And it's usually 2 of them. One of them's out of the car videoing, and they're trying to drag you into it to where you are in a situation where you can be sued or where legal action can be taken towards the officer. I mean, who thinks of these things? Why would you want to put yourself in that situation, and why would you want to put the officer in that situation? So with that said, I actually ran into a couple of them in 20 years, and it was just getting more and more the closer to the end I was getting. And one of them that I ran into was just comical. Fortunately, the officer that stopped him yelled for some help because he could see this thing was going to be inflamed. So myself and another trooper showed up that we both had 20 years on, or getting close to our 20 years. And we've been around a lot of this stuff enough that it takes a lot to get you riled up anymore. And this guy was acting up, and he started headbutting the trunk of the car and looking at his camera saying, oh, look, they're beating me. And he's bouncing himself off the trunk. And on our video, we're just standing there looking at each other going, what's this guy doing? Finally, we all just grab hold of him, put cuffs on him, pull him off the car, and go, dude, you got to calm down. We don't know what you're doing, but you're not solving anything. There was a silver lining to this one. This one was pretty comical. He gave his shot at doing the whole sovereign citizen thing and thinking he was going to get everybody in trouble. And come to find out he had a warrant for his arrest and was driving under suspension as well. So his didn't work out real hot because our videos, I mean, we had 3 cars there, 3 different cameras with all, the same kind of, we all viewed the same thing. His camera really didn't show much different either. But he tried to twist it to that. Did him no good, got him nowhere. And it really didn't cause us any trouble. But just the point I'm trying to make there is those people are out here that are simply looking to lure you into a situation so they can sue you over a bunch of nothing. But they're going to blow it up to where it's something big. And they're not going to be out there causing huge crimes. I mean, they're not going to be robbing a bank and doing this stuff. But they may drive a little fast or change lanes unsafely. And then you pull them over and they blow it up into something it's not. I mean, the part that's hard to disagree with is that through the 20 years of service, I've done a lot of things that normal people don't really get to do. One of them I got assigned to a security detail, basically, at a college about 25 miles from here. And it was to keep people away and walk with Mikhail Gorbachev. Now, Mikhail Gorbachev was the president of Russia during the 80s, during the Cold War, when Reagan was around. And the biggest thing I remember, he was the biggest part of our problems when I was growing up. So, I mean, it was different. We got to be around him, and we walked around with him, and he had his own security. I'm not real sure why we were there, but because these guys that he had with him looked like linebackers for the Raiders. But, you know, we were walking with them and basically just getting them from point A to point B and getting them around the town. It was kind of a holding hand detail. But another one I've done at that same college was they were having a benefit concert, and so I had to stand outside Blake Shelton's bus and keep people away from the bus, and I had to stand at the ropes, and I met several people there. I mean, I met Tracy Bird. I can't remember the guy's name that sang Triple XL. He was a bald-headed guy, and he looked like a football player. But he was there. Barry Switzer showed up. And I mean, you run into those people and you just treat them like normal people and send them on their way, because that's not your job, is to be crazy fan guy. So, but I mean, it's interesting. You get to kind of see the backside of behind the scenes of how those things work. And so those are the upsides of the job. Now then, would I go into it now thinking, ooh, I might get to do that twice in a career, and I got to put up with all the other stuff the other 19 and a half years? No. There is just too much out there now that can attack you as the law enforcement officer trying to give the help. I mean, you're trying to help the people. And from our standpoint, that's what we're doing when we're out there stopping cars, is we're there trying to make the public safe. So, I mean, our train of thought when we're out there is we're trying to provide public safety. We're not out there looking to get everything all mixed up and land everybody in court in a lawsuit. And we're dang sure I never was out there looking to shoot somebody. I mean, and that, to me, that would have been a nightmare in itself, because although you do get hard to a lot of stuff over a long career, I still never want to kill anybody. I mean, I don't want to shoot anybody. I'm not there to inflict pain. I'm there to help. Just the opposite of inflicting pain. And you'd be surprised, the largest part of law enforcement feel that way about it. They're not really wanting to injure or hurt anybody. They are just put into situations where they have to preserve their safety. And so they get to go home to their families. And over a 20-year period, on average, I read a study, and this is in Oklahoma now, every 4 to 6 years you should be in a car accident on our state highways, simply because of the amount of traffic that's increased, and the odds of you making it through 20 years without being in a serious accident or being hit while you're beside the road on a traffic stop are slim. And honestly, one of the big roads we worked on was Interstate 35, so the speeds are supposed to be 70, but you know, they're 80 plus. You get hit at 80 plus, there's no coming back from that. And your odds aren't great. So, yeah, and traffic has picked up so much around here that most of our highways need to be 6, 8 lane deals so it can accommodate all the traffic. But that's for a different podcast or a different episode. So in the end, what I'm trying to get at is it for you? I mean, it's one of those jobs. It's thankless a big part of the time. There are those people out there that appreciate you and what you're doing. But you just got to know that if it's a field you go into, that you're going to have those people out there that are simply looking to sue you for all manner of things. I mean, you name it. You get in a car accident, which happens. I mean, we get in car accidents too. You get in a car accident and somebody's injured, not only are they going to sue the department, they're probably going to sue you directly too. They're going to try to get as much money out of this deal as they can. Should you be involved in a shooting, and heaven forbid you kill the guy or kill the person, the family's probably going to sue you. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. That's the way it goes. And it didn't used to go that way, but that's the way attorneys have twisted everything this day and age. That's the way it heads now. Everybody's after their piece of the pie. And I'm not saying that you drive around thinking about that stuff 24/7, because I mean, I was very aware of it, that it could happen, and while I was doing the job, but in the back of your mind somewhere it's there. And I'm probably more aware of it now. I mean, I see it from the outside looking in. You see all of it that takes place constantly. I mean, it is crazy. You have to, basically, while you're out there working now, you're walking on glass. I mean, you're going to offend the wrong person. I guess probably the best way to describe this is you have to be politically correct and literally correct in your actions when you're in a world that is neither. The bad guy's obviously wrong because whatever they're doing is a criminal act, but you have to treat them with kid gloves. It's just backwards to me that that's where we've ended up. Especially whenever we came from a time when in the Old West where, you get out and you're a horse thief, you get hung. I mean, you're done. That one offense, judge and jury, you're hung by a tree and let's move on. To a point now where you can't even say the wrong thing as a law enforcement officer and you're in trouble. And then let's look at the obvious stuff. Very highly stressful job. Not real great on your health, your personal health. It's rough on your families because you work odd hours. You're called out all hours of the night. You are obviously put in situations that most people aren't. And so your family is constantly worrying about it. So that's why, at 20 years, I, in passing, mentioned to my wife that, I'm thinking about, I might retire at 20 years. And she just point blank said, no, you are. You're done. Because for years, she wouldn't let me tell her any stories when I came home. She didn't want to know what happened. She just wanted to know that I was home and okay. The rest of it didn't matter. She didn't want to hear the story. And so now that I've retired, I've told her some of them, and she just cringed now. Well, and that was years ago that this stuff happened. So, you just got to look at all of it. And like I said at the very first, I'm not against people being in law enforcement. I want you to evaluate to the best of your ability prior to going into it and do your research. Ask officers, ask deputies, ask troopers, and then go find the old guys, the ones that are getting close to retirement or just retired, and ask them their opinion of whether you should do it and what are the ins and outs. I guarantee you everyone has a little bit different take on it, but every one of them is going to hit on a few of the same things I've hit on today. Just because, and it's nobody's fault. It's just the way the world has changed, and it's just the way things have gone. And I don't know the answer to fixing it. But there's got to be a fix out there, and somebody a lot smarter than me is going to have to tackle that one. So, in the end, I'll tell you this. I had a good career. I've met friends I'll have for life. I've just talked to a couple of them yesterday. And that there's one of them was still working. He's still doing the job. And so now, he's going to try to get his 25 years on. I guess just my point in the end is we're living in a kinder, gentler world, and offending people now can actually cause you trouble, at least at the department level, and usually for the amount of pay you're getting for the job that you're signing up for. I just don't see how it equals out, and it's worth it. And I worked at the Highway Patrol, and we made $70,000 plus a year once you maxed out. That's very good money in South Central Oklahoma. I know in a lot of states that's beans, but in Southern Oklahoma and in Oklahoma period, that's a good paycheck. But that was the thing, is you get into that job, you're not doing it for money. You're doing it because you want to serve. You want to help the people. And I just want people to step back and look and take it all in, from all around, from all the guys that are doing the job and all the guys that used to do the job, and just make sure it's the right choice for you and your family, because it's kind of a tough life whenever you really get into it and you start getting into those things where you're in lawsuits, you're constantly in court, you've got people coming after you individually as well as your department. It just causes a lot of strain that most people don't need. I mean, you could find another job that makes the same money or better, half the stress or a third of the stress. And I mean, that to me, that would just seem worth it. So I've just kind of rambled on here about this, guys. I mean, it's something I feel strongly about, but at some point I'm going to start getting people on here and interviewing them. And I'll get some law enforcement guys on here and I'll talk to them about some of these same topics, get their take on it, and just see what they think the future of law enforcement is. I mean, it's gone in so many different directions, and crime has got so much more sophisticated that it's hard to follow all of it. So guys, that's going to be it for this one. If y'all hadn't done so yet, please subscribe. And for those of you on YouTube, which I'm also recording as we speak, come on over and subscribe at YouTube. And I'll see y'all next time.